I'm going to talk about contamination of food. What are the roots, how the food can be contaminated? I'm going to talk about contamination, the sources. First of all, looking at the sources of contamination of food, the first sources we're looking at the food handler or pest or raw food, right? So, like for example, the sources, the people who kill like animal, let's say, or from the farm. So this from the farm also, the food can also be contaminated from that point, Then from that source, we're talking about the vehicle, the transportation, when they are transporting this food. So when they are transporting this food the handling, the person who's handling it most commonly is has bacteria sometimes. Then also the clean equipment, right? Like the towel they are using also sometimes have bacteria. So this food also can be contaminated. Like the chopping board, things that they use to cut the board, also because of maybe not proper cleaning, also can be contaminated. Then also utensil, then with equipment also. This also can be serve as bacterial also because maybe no proper cleaning, no proper storage. Then I'm going to talk about like when the food ready also to eat. The food also can be contaminated when it's ready to eat because of maybe you leave it on the air, dust are coming around also. So these are the sources or the roots at which food can be contaminated, right? Then I'm going to talk about which other topic? I'm going to talk about how to control the type of. I'm going to talk about the cross contamination, right? What we mean about cross contamination in this topic? Types of cross contamination simply mean that transfer of bacteria from one contacted food to another is an high risk to another food. So this is also called cross contamination. So looking at this one, we're talking about direct contamination. So this simply means that like from the farm, you put a chicken and a vegetable together. So it can, raw chicken, it can also be directly contaminated, Then also we're looking at drip contamination, right? That drip contamination, it's like a freezer. You put raw food and every food you put together, so it's called drip contamination. Now we're talking about indirect contamination. Indirect contamination is simply like the surface of let's say like your table, you put food and this table is also already have bacteria. So this is three type of contamination: direct contamination, indirect contamination, also in freezer when you're trying to preserve your food. Then we're looking at how to control cross contamination. Cross contamination is when you put a raw food or closer to a fresh food. So sometimes the food also can be contaminated. So how to control this one? In controlling this one, you should always have it in mind that number one, you have to use color code, or chopper or board knife, right? You have to use color code system. They have to separate of raw and ready food. You have to always try to separate them, right? Then also you have to use color code for cleaning equipment. Time to clean all equipment, right? Your table and pots and other utilities, you understand. Then also you have to use effective training of food handler. You have to train, if you are in hotel, you have to train your staffs how they can handle the food equipment, how they can use gloves and other things. Then I'm going to talk about sources of physical hazard, right? We're talking about sources of physical hazard in food hygiene, like raw ingredients, right? Let's say a human hair is there also, or something like a pin, or these things can contaminate the food. So we're looking at point number two, talking about cleaning of material, right? Number one is raw ingredients can be contaminated. Number two is cleaning material equipment. You have to clean them, right? Then also point number three, you have to maintain an operative system. Which time you're supposed to clean your food, which time you're supposed to do your farming, something like that, or Then also food handling of visitor. You have to look at these things, the visitor that are coming and food handling, greeting. Then you have to look at the packing materials. The packing materials, you mean how you can store your food or which container you are going to use to serve your food. So you have to look at that mechanism, because that also can cause bacteria. Then you also have to use the notice board, right, or mental pin, right, Then also you're looking at the building, the paint of a building, also because of the paint also can also contaminate food. Then you're talking about equipment, right, the equipment you are using or school. Let's say you are using school something to cut, school equipment to cut, maybe because of the lubricants or the chemical in that school can also be served as the contamination, right? There also pest control, right? Also sometimes pest control, the chemical they use for pest control also can also be contaminated, So we're talking about sources of chemical hazard, right? Chemical hazard is simple like this cooking, like cleaning equipment, right? They also can serve as serve as contamination. So how they serve as contamination? Like when it delivers this thing, you have to find a safe place to put it. Then number two, you have to pack this material in a safe place. The chemical, you have to pack them in a safe place. They're also maintenance operative. So you should not deal with chemical at the same time you go and deal with a food item. So you have to separate, you have to have time to deal with chemical items and also time to deal with food items. They're also cleaning chemical or pesticide also. You have to be careful of those chemicals also. Then excessive addictive. So you have to be careful of those things. So I stop here, and my next topic I'm still on the contamination.